The Valerian Empire was the most powerful force in the galaxy. It controlled 47 star systems and protected billions of lives across hundreds of planets. At the center of this vast empire stood the Crystal Citadel, a palace so beautiful that it seemed to be made of frozen starlight. Inside its grand halls, Princess Neri of House Valerix sat alone in her chambers, staring out at the triple moons rising over the capital city. In 3 days, her life would change forever. The royal trial was an ancient tradition, older than the empire itself. Every heir to the Valerian throne had to choose a consort through this trial. It was not a test of strength or intelligence alone. It was something deeper, something that many failed to understand until it was too late. The trial revealed the true character of those who attempted it. Already, princes from across the galaxy had arrived. Their ships filled the sky like a swarm of metal birds. Each prince came with servants, guards, and gifts meant to impress the princess. They walked through the palace halls with their heads held high, confident that they would succeed where others might fail. Prince Thorax of the Crithian Empire was the first to arrive. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, covered in deep red armor that gleamed like fresh blood. His people were warriors, famous throughout the galaxy for their strength in battle. Thorax had conquered 7 worlds before his 20th birthday. He moved to the palace like a living weapon, and other visitors stepped aside when they saw him coming. The Nexery sent Prince Velocity, whose real name was impossible for most species to pronounce. He had 4 eyes that could see in multiple spectrums of light, and his brain could process information faster than most computers. The Nexery were known as the galaxy's greatest scientists and mathematicians. Velocity had designed 3 new types of starship engines before he turned 15. He spoke rarely, but when he did, everyone listened. From the Plutonian corporate worlds came Prince Goldmark, whose family owned entire solar systems. He wore rings on every finger, each one worth more than a small planet. The Plutonians believed that wealth was the ultimate form of power. Goldmark had already sent Princess Neri gifts worth more than some nations possessed. He smiled constantly, showing teeth made of polished diamonds. There were dozens of others. Prince Maximus of the Titan clans, who had personally led armies into battle. Princess Air of the Aquarian Depths, whose people could survive in any environment. Lord Striker of the Void Nomads, whose fleet controlled the trade routes between 6 sectors. Each one was royalty, each one was powerful, and each one believed they would win. In the shadow of these great visitors, hardly anyone noticed the humans. Earth had sent a small delegation, mostly workers and cultural ambassadors. Humans were not considered important in galactic politics. They were pleasant enough. Everyone agreed. They worked hard, learned quickly, and caused little trouble. But they were not exceptional. They had no natural armor like the Crithians, no advanced intelligence like the Nexery, and no great wealth like the Plutonians. They were just ordinary. Lee Doyen was one of these ordinary humans. He worked as a janitor in the Crystal Citadel, part of a cultural exchange program between Earth and the Valerian Empire. He had been working there for 8 months, cleaning floors and maintaining the palace systems that kept millions of gallons of water flowing and billions of lights shining. It was honest work, and he took pride in doing it well. On this particular morning, Doyen pushed his cleaning cart down the eastern corridor of the palace. The floor was made of material that looked like glass but never broke. He had to clean it 3 times a day because it showed every footprint and speck of dust. As he worked, another procession of visiting nobles swept past him. They did not look at him. To them, he was invisible, just part of the background like the walls or the decorative plants. Doyen did not mind. He had grown used to being overlooked. He was wiping down a window when he heard a small voice behind him. "Excuse me, please." Doyen turned and looked down. A young Valerian child stood there, no taller than his waist. Her skin had a crystalline quality, like her princess, but dimmer and less refined. She was the daughter of one of the court attendants. He remembered. She held something in her small hands, and her large eyes were bright, with unshed tears. "Can you fix?" she asked, her words broken and heavily accented. Doyen knelt down to her level. She showed him a small mechanical bird, a toy that would normally fly and sing. One of its wings had snapped completely off. "Oh, no," Doyen said gently. "That's a pretty bird. What happened?" I dropped, the child said sadly. I dropped and it broke. Doyen examined the toy carefully. The wing had a clean break, and the mechanisms inside still looked functional. He reached into his cart and pulled out his personal repair kit. After 8 months of working in the palace, he had learned to carry tools with him. Something was always breaking, and it made him feel useful to fix things. He worked quietly, using a strong adhesive to reattach the wing. Then he took a thin wire from his kit and created a small support brace, wrapping it carefully so it would not interfere with the wing's movement. The child watched it with intense focus, barely breathing. After a few minutes, Doyen activated the toy. The bird's eyes lit up. Its wings fluttered. It rose into the air and began to circle, singing a soft melody. The child's face transformed with joy. She grabbed the bird from the air and hugged it tightly, then threw her arms around Doyen's neck. "Thank you, thank you, thank you," she said, her voice full of happiness. She ran off down the corridor, the bird flying above her head, both of them singing. Doyen smiled and returned to his cart. It was a small thing, fixing a toy, but it had made someone happy. That felt good. What he did not know was that someone had been watching. 3 floors above, standing on a private balcony, Princess Neri had seen everything. She had been standing there for several minutes, looking down at the palace grounds, when she noticed the human janitor and the crying child. She watched as he knelt down without hesitation. She watched as he carefully repaired the toy, his hands patient and steady. She watched as the child hugged him, and she saw the genuine smile on his face as the girl ran away happy. "Your Highness," a voice said behind her. Princess Neri turned. Her chief advisor, Crix, stood in the doorway. He was an old Valerian, his crystalline skin clouded with age, but his mind still sharp. "The final suitor has arrived," Crix announced. "Prince Maximus of the Titan clans has landed. His entourage numbers 300. Another conqueror," Princess Neri said quietly, turning back to look at the spot where the human had been. He had already moved on, continuing his work. "He has subdued 12 rebellious worlds," Crix said, consulting his data tablet. "His military record is most impressive. He has also requested a private audience before the trial begins." "They all want private audiences," the princess said. "They all want to convince me that they are special, that they are different from the others." She was quiet for a moment, her silver eyes distant. "Crix, in all your years of service, how many princes have attempted the royal trial?" 3 days passed like a hell breath. The crystal arena had been prepared according to traditions that stretched back thousands of years. The massive structure could hold 50,000 spectators, and every seat was filled. Nobles occupied the lower sections, closest to the arena floor where they could see every detail. Diplomats and wealthy merchants sat in the middle tiers. The upper sections, farthest in the action, were reserved for palace workers and service staff who had earned the privilege of witnessing this historic event. Lee Doyen sat in one of those upper seats, a paper bag of snacks in his lap. His friend Kim Hajuan sat beside him, equally amazed that they were allowed to watch it all. "I heard Prince Thorax can lift a ground transport vehicle," Hajuan said, munching on dried seaweed. "Just picks it up like it weighs nothing." "That Nexary prince is supposed to be even more impressive," Doyen replied. "They say his brain works so fast he can predict what you're going to say before you finish your sentence. Think any of them will actually pass?" Doyen shrugged. "They all look pretty confident. Someone has to pass eventually, right?" Below them, the arena floor gleamed white and empty. Suddenly, the lights dimmed. A hush fell over the 50,000 spectators as a platform rose from the center of the floor. Princess Neri stood upon it, wearing ceremonial robes that seemed to capture and reflect every bit of light in the arena. She looked like a living star. "Citizens of the Valerian Empire," her voice echoed through the arena, amplified by technology that made it sound like she was speaking directly into each person's ear. "We gather today to witness the royal trial. This ancient test has guided our empire for 3,000 years. It reveals truth that cannot be hidden and character that cannot be faked." She paused, her silver eyes scanning the crowd. "Strength can be measured. Intelligence can be tested. But wisdom, compassion, and true leadership exists in the heart. The royal trial sees what is hidden. Let us discover who among these noble princes possesses what our empire needs. She raised her hand. Let the royal trial commence. The crowd erupted in cheers. Doyen found himself cheering too, caught up in the moment. The first prince was called. Prince Thorax of the Crithian Empire stepped onto the arena floor. His massive red armor caught the light as he walked, and each footstep echoed like thunder. He stood in the center of the arena and raised his fist to his chest in a warrior salute. "I am ready," his deep voice boomed. The air around him shimmered. Suddenly, a hologram surrounded him so realistic that it was hard to tell where reality ended and simulation began. The arena floor seemed to transform into a battlefield. Smoke filled the air. The sounds of combat echoed from all directions. Doyen leaned forward, fascinated. He had never seen technology like this before. In the simulation, Prince Thorax commanded an army. His soldiers were pinned down by enemy fire. Trapped in a valley with no clear escape, the hologram presented him with information, tactical data flowing across his vision that the audience could also see on massive screens around the arena. Two options appeared before the prince. The first path would allow him to lead a frontal assault. It was risky and many of his soldiers would die, but if it succeeded, Prince Thorax would be celebrated as a hero. All the glory would be his. The second path was safer. He could call for help from a rival commander whose forces were nearby. Most of his soldiers would survive, but the rival would receive credit for the rescue. Prince Thorax did not hesitate. He chose the first path. The simulation played out rapidly. Thorax led his warriors into battle with tremendous courage. He fought at the front, his strength undeniable, but the cost was terrible. Soldiers fell around him, dying to protect their prince and secure his victory. By the time the battle ended, more than half his force was dead. The hologram faded. Prince Thorax stood in the center of the arena, breathing heavily, his fists still raised in triumph. He clearly believed he had succeeded. The crowd murmured uncertainly. That had been impressive to watch, but something felt wrong about it. Princess Neri's voice cut through the noise. "Prince Thorax of the Crithian Empire, you have failed the royal trial." The massive warrior turned to stare at her, shock evident even through his armor. "Failed? But I achieved victory." "You achieve your own glory," Princess Neri said, her voice cold and clear. "You chose personal honor over the lives of those who trusted you to lead them. A true leader protects their people, even when it costs them recognition. You fail to understand this. You are dismissed." Prince Thorax stood frozen for a moment, then turned and walked from the arena. His footsteps, which had sounded like thunder when he entered, now seemed hollow and small. "Next!" Princess Neri called. Prince Velocity of the Nexary Collective. The Nexary prince moved onto the arena floor with quick, precise steps. His four eyes blinked independently, taking in every detail of his surroundings. Where Prince Thorax had been all raw power, Prince Velocity was pure calculation. The hologram activated again. This time, the scenario was different. Prince Velocity found himself governing a colony world facing a terrible crisis. A disease had broken out, and resources were limited. There was not enough medicine to save everyone. Data flooded the prince's vision. Population statistics, medical projections, resource allocations. The audience watched as Prince Velocity processed all of it in seconds, his remarkable brain working through possibilities faster than most computers. His solution was mathematically perfect. He would focus all resources on saving the young and healthy, those who contributed most to the colony's economy. The elderly and the sick would be given minimal care. Many would die, but the colony as a whole would survive with maximum efficiency. The simulation showed the results. The colony survived. Production levels remained stable. From a purely logical standpoint, Prince Velocity had found the optimal solution. But the hologram also showed something else. It showed the faces of those who were abandoned. It showed families torn apart. It showed a colony that survived but lost something essential in the process. The hologram faded. Prince Velocity stood calmly, confident in his mathematical superiority. "Prince Velocity of the Nexary Collective," Princess Neri said, "you have failed the royal trial. The princes were eyes focused on her with confusion. My solution achieved the highest survival rate with available resources. The mathematics are flawless. Mathematics cannot measure the value of hope, Princess Neri replied. You made a choice that would have destroyed the spirit of that colony even as you saved their bodies. A leader must account for what cannot be calculated. You fail to understand this. You are dismissed. Prince Velocity left the arena, still looking confused. To him, emotions were variables that complicated otherwise clear equations. Princess Neri walked through the arena, stand with slow, deliberate steps. Every eye in the massive stadium followed her movement. The crowd had gone completely silent, everyone wondering what would happen next. When all the formal suitors failed, tradition allowed the princess one final option. She could call upon any witness present to attempt a trial. The nobles in the lower section straightened their postures, hoping desperately to be chosen. Wealthy merchants adjusted their expensive clothing. Military commanders stood at attention. Each person she passed felt a surge of hope, thinking that perhaps they would be the one selected. But Princess Neri kept walking. She moved past the diplomatic boxes. She climbed the stairs past the middle tiers. She continued upward, higher and higher, until she reached the uppermost sections where the palace workers sat. Lee Doyen had just taken a bite of his dried fruit when he noticed the princess was climbing toward his section. He froze, his mouth full, watching her approach. Surely she was not coming this far up. There must be someone important sitting near him that he had not noticed. But she kept climbing. She was 10 rows away, then 5, then 3. Hadrian grabbed Doyen's arm. Doyen, he whispered urgently. She's coming this way. She's probably looking for someone behind us. Doyen whispered back, still not quite believing what was happening. Princess Neri stopped directly in front of him. Her silver eyes locked onto his face. Up close, she was even more striking than she appeared from a distance. Her crystalline skin caught the light, and she seemed to glow from within. Doyen's snack bag fell from his hands, scattering dried fruit across the floor. Me, he squeaked, his voice embarrassingly high. The entire arena erupted into chaos. 50,000 voices shouted at once. Some people laughed, thinking this must be some kind of joke or performance art. Others shouted in anger, insulted that a mere janitor was being considered when so many accomplished people sat in the audience. Still others simply could not believe what they were seeing. A human? A worker? A janitor who cleaned floors and fixed broken pipes? This had to be a mistake. But Princess Neri's expression was as serious as stone. She showed no hint of humor or uncertainty. By royal law, her voice cut through the noise, amplified so everyone could hear. I invoke my right to call upon any witness present at this trial. Lee Doyen of Earth, you are summoned to attempt the royal trial. Doyen felt like his heart might explode from his chest. His hands were shaking. Everyone in the arena was staring at him now. He could feel the weight of 50,000 eyes. Your Highness, he managed to say, his voice trembling, I think there has been a mistake. I am just a janitor. I clean floors. I am nobody important. The royal trial does not care about titles. Princess Neri replied. Do you accept the summons or do you refuse? Hadrian leaned close to Doyen's ear. You can refuse, he whispered urgently. No one would blame you. This is crazy. Doyen's mind raced. If he refused, what would happen? Earth was barely respected in galactic politics, as it was. Humans were seen as ordinary, unremarkable. If he refused this summons, would it make things worse for his entire species? Would every human in the galaxy suffer because he was too afraid to try? But if he accepted and failed, would that not be even more embarrassing? He would fail in front of 50,000 people. The entire galaxy would see a human attempt something that 50 princes could not do, and watch him fail just as badly. His hands would not stop shaking. He wanted to run away. He wanted to disappear. Then he remembered something his father had told him before he left Earth. Doyen, his father had said, life will ask you to do hard things. When that happens, do not think about whether you will succeed or fail. Just think about whether you can live with yourself if you do not try. Doyen took a deep breath. He stood up on legs that felt like water. I accept, he said. His voice was quiet, But in the silence of the arena, everyone heard him. The crowd exploded again. Some people cheered, caught up in the drama of the moment. Others booed and shouted insults. The human delegation, sitting several sections over, looked terrified. Earth's ambassador had gone pale, clearly thinking about the political consequences of what was about to happen. Princess Neri nodded once. Then, come. Doyen began the long walk down to the arena floor. Each step felt like it took forever. People shouted things at him as he passed. Some encouraged him. Most did not. He heard laughter. He heard anger. He heard disbelief. When he finally reached the arena floor, the white surface stretched out before him like an ocean. It looked enormous from down here. He walked to the center, his cleaning uniform suddenly feeling very shabby compared to the magnificent armor and robes the princes had worn. Princess Neri stood on her platform, looking down at him. Lead Doyen of Earth. The royal trial will test your character through 5 challenges. You may face them in any order. You may rest between challenges. You may ask for help from the advisors provided. Do you understand? Yes, Your Highness, Doyen said, trying to keep his voice steady. Then begin. The hologram activated around him. The arena disappeared, replaced by a realistic simulation. Doyen found himself standing on a space station. Alarms were blaring. Red emergency lights flashed everywhere. A mechanical voice announced that life support was failing. He was presented with a scenario quickly. The station held 5 different groups of people in 5 different sections. He had limited power and limited time. The previous princes had approached this like a tactical problem, tried to decide which groups to save and which to sacrifice. Doyen did not think like a prince. He thought like a janitor. Okay, he muttered to himself, studying the layout that appeared in his vision. Life support systems always have redundancy. If the main system is failing, there should be a backup somewhere. He moved through the simulated station, his hands automatically reaching for things, his mind working through the problem the same way he had fixed 1,000 broken systems in the palace. He was not brilliant. He was not a genius. But he had spent 8 months learning how things worked, how to find problems, how to fix them. The backup system is here, he said, finding it in the simulation. It is not broken. It is just disconnected. If I can reroute power from non-essential sections. He worked through the steps methodically, the way he had been trained. The simulation responded to his actions. Power rerouted. The backup system activated. Life support stabilized across all 5 sections. Everyone survived. The hologram faded. Doyen stood in the arena again, blinking in the bright lights. He had no idea if what he did was correct. He had just done what made sense to him. The crowd had gone quiet again. They had expected him to fail immediately, to panic and freeze. But he had solved the problem, and he had done it in a way none of the princes had considered. Princess Neri's voice was calm. Acceptable. Continue to the second challenge. Doyen felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe he would not embarrass himself completely. Maybe he could at least finish 1 or 2 challenges before he failed. The final challenge was unlike anything Doyen had faced before. There was no puzzle to solve, no diplomatic crisis to navigate, no tactical decision to make. It was simply a test of endurance. The hologram placed him in a control room with dozens of different systems. Each system needed constant attention. Power levels had to be balanced. Temperature controls needed adjustment. Communication arrays required monitoring. Pressure valves needed regular checking. And every few minutes, something would go wrong randomly. A fire would break out. A system would overload. A critical alert would demand immediate response. The task was to keep everything running. Just keep going. Do not let anything fail completely. Hour 1 was manageable. Doyen moved through the systems methodically, his training as a maintenance worker serving him well. He knew how to prioritize, how to handle multiple problems at once. Hour 5 became harder. His arms ached from constantly moving. His eyes burned from staring at displays. But he kept going. Hour 12, and exhaustion started creeping in. His movements became slower. He made small mistakes that he had to correct, but he kept going. Hour 24. A full day had passed. Doyen's hands trembled as he worked. His back screamed in pain. His head pounded. The simulated room felt like it was spinning. Other princes had quit by now. The Crithian warrior, for all his strength, had collapsed at hour 18. The Nexary genius had calculated the statistical impossibility of success and withdrawn at hour 20. But Doyen kept going. Hour 36. He could barely stand. His vision blurred. He had stopped thinking clearly hours ago. Now he simply moved on instinct, his body remembering the patterns even as his mind grew foggy. A system failed. He fixed it. Another alert sounded. He responded. A fire broke out in Sector 7. He activated the suppression system. The temperature in Sector 3 climbed dangerously high. He rerouted cooling. The Overseer's voice cut through his concentration. Lead Doyen of Earth. You may withdraw with honor. No one could fault you for attempting what you cannot complete. There is no shame in recognizing your limits. Doyen's response was automatic, the words coming out without real thought. Just give me a minute. He had said those exact words so many times now. 40 times. 50. He had lost count. Up in the stands, Hadjuin gripped the railing, so hard his knuckles turned white. Other humans had gathered around him. Palace workers had abandoned their posts to watch. The Earth ambassador sat with his face in his hands, unable to look but unable to leave. Why does he not stop? Someone in the crowd asked. He has already proven himself. This is torture. An elderly Valerian woman sitting nearby answered, her voice thoughtful. Because humans do not know when to quit. They do not know how to give up on things that matter to them. Hour 40. Doyen collapsed. His legs simply gave out beneath him, and he fell to the simulated floor. Alarms blared around him. Systems began failing. The crowd gasped, thinking it was finally over. Doyen lay there for 10 seconds. 20 seconds. 30. Then his hand moved. He grabbed a nearby console and pulled himself up. His legs shook like branches in a storm, but they held him. He went back to work. The crowd went silent. No one could believe what they were seeing. Hour 43. Doyen collapsed again. This time he fell harder, and there was blood on his lip where he had bitten it. The simulation did not stop. Alarms continued. Systems continued failing. Doyen got up again. Stop this, someone shouted from the crowd. Someone stop this. He is killing himself. But Princess Neri raised her hand, and her voice was firm. The trial continues until he withdraws or until he completes it. Those are the only two options. Hadjin was crying now, tears streaming down his face. Come on, Doyen. You can stop. You have done enough. Please stop. But Doyen did not stop. Could not stop. Would not stop. Hour 45. His movements were so slow now that they barely looked like movements at all. Each action took an eternity. His hands fumbled with controls. His eyes could barely focus. But still he worked. A critical alert sounded. Sector 9 was experiencing a complete power failure. If he did not fix it within 60 seconds, the entire simulated station would fail, and the challenge would be over. Doyen stumbled toward the power control panel. His legs gave out halfway there, and he fell to his knees. He crawled the rest of the way, his hands leaving sweaty prints on the simulated floor. 50 seconds. 40 seconds. He reached the panel and pulled himself up using it. His fingers moved across the controls, muscle memory guiding him when conscious thought had abandoned him. 30 seconds. 20 seconds. He found the problem. A circuit had overloaded. He needed to reroute power through the backup system. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely press the right buttons. 10 seconds. He completed the reroute. Power flowed back into Sector 9. The alert stopped. Doyen stayed there, leaning against the panel, his entire body trembling. Every part of him hurt. He could not remember ever being this tired. He could not remember his own name. All he knew was that the alarms had stopped, and he had fixed the problem. Just one more, he whispered to himself. Just one more, and then one more after that. Hour 48. The simulation finally ended. Not because Doyen had quit, not because he had failed, but because he had completed it. He had kept the systems running for the full duration of the challenge. The hologram faded. Doyen stood in the center of the arena again, the white floor stretching around him. For a moment, He just stood there, swaying slightly. Then, very carefully, very deliberately, he sat down. He did not collapse this time. He simply sat down and put his head in his hands. The arena exploded with sound. 50,000 people screamed at once. Some were cheering. Some were crying. Some were simply shocked into making noise, any noise, to express what they had just witnessed. Princess Neri descended from her platform. Her advisors tried to speak to her, but she waved them away. She walked across the arena floor to where Doyen sat. "Lead Doyen of Earth," she said. Doyen tried to stand up. His body refused to cooperate. His legs would not work anymore. "Stay seated," Princess Neri said gently. "You have earned the rest." She turned to face the crowd, and her voice carried to every corner of the massive arena. "Lead Doyen of Earth has completed the royal trial. He is the first to succeed in 3 generations." The cheering grew even louder, shaking the very walls of the arena. Humans in the crowd were openly weeping. Hadrian had jumped the railing and was running down the stairs toward the arena floor. Security be damned. Doyen looked up at Princess Neri, his vision still blurry, his mind still foggy. "Why?" he managed to ask. "Why did you choose me?" Princess Neri knelt down, so she was at his eye level. When she spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear, but her words were directed at him. The celebration that followed Doyen's victory lasted 3 full days. The entire capital city erupted in festivities. People who had never cared about humans suddenly wanted to meet the janitor who had done the impossible. News reporters from 100 worlds requested interviews. Diplomats wanted audiences. The Earth Embassy was flooded with messages. Doyen experienced almost none of it. He spent the first 2 days sleeping. His body had been pushed far beyond its limits, and it demanded rest. He slept for 16 hours straight, then woke up long enough to eat something before sleeping another 12 hours. On the 3rd day, he finally felt human again. When he woke on the 4th morning, he found a message waiting for him. Princess Neri requested a private meeting in her personal garden. No cameras, no advisors, no crowds. Just the 2 of them. Doyen dressed in the nicest clothes he owned, which were still just his regular casual wear. He had no formal outfits, no fancy robes. He was still just Doyen, even if the galaxy suddenly knew his name. The royal garden was unlike anything he had ever seen. Plants from dozens of worlds grew together in careful harmony. Trees with silver leaves stood next to bushes that glowed softly in the shade. A small stream ran through the center, its water so clear it looked like liquid glass. The air smelled like flowers he could not name. Princess Neri stood by the stream, watching the water flow over smooth stones. She wore simple clothes today, not her ceremonial robes. Somehow, that made Doyen feel less nervous. "Your Highness," he said, bowing awkwardly. He had tried to learn the proper Valerian bow, but was never quite sure he did it correctly. "Just Neri, please," she said, turning to face him. "When we are alone, there is no need for formality." "I am not sure I can do that," Doyen admitted. "You are a princess, and I clean floors." "You completed the royal trial," Neri reminded him. "That makes you far more than someone who cleans floors." They walked together along the stream, neither speaking for a moment. Doyen waited, knowing she had brought him here for a reason. Finally, Neri spoke. "I need to explain something to you, Doyen. Something about why I chose you, and what I hope will happen next." She stopped walking and turned to face him fully. "The galaxy faces challenges that strength cannot punch, intelligence cannot calculate, and wealth cannot buy. Our climate systems are collapsing on 12 worlds. Resources are running out faster than we can replace them. 3 species have gone extinct in the last decade. Social systems are breaking down. Crime is rising. Trust between species is eroding." Doyen listened quietly, surprised by the heaviness in her voice. "I have been studying this problem for years," Neri continued. "I researched every species in the Empire, looking for qualities that might help us survive what is coming. The Crithians are strong, but strength cannot stop a planet from dying. The Nexari are brilliant, but intelligence alone cannot make people care about each other. The Plutonians are wealthy, but money cannot buy solutions that do not exist yet. She looked directly into his eyes. Then I studied humans. You're not the strongest species. You are not the fastest or the smartest or the richest. But you have something that I think is more valuable than all of those things combined. What is that? Doyen asked quietly. You see problems as puzzles to solve, not obstacles to overcome, Neri said. When something breaks, you do not destroy it or abandon it. You fix it. When people need help, you do not calculate whether helping them benefits you. You just help. When a task seems impossible, you do not give up. You just keep trying until you find a way. She gestured around the garden. Every prince who came here wanted to show me their power. They wanted to prove they were superior. But superiority is not what the Empire needs. We need people who collaborate instead of dominate. We need people who persist instead of quit. We need people who care about fixing things, not just winning glory. Doyen felt overwhelmed by her words. You chose me because I am stubborn and I fix broken things? Neri smiled. I chose you because you represent the best of what humanity offers. And I think humanity might be exactly what this galaxy needs to survive. She took a breath, and Doyen could see she was about to say something important. I want to offer you a position, Neri said, not as a prince consort. That is an old tradition that does not fit what we need. Instead, I want to create a new role, Chief Innovator of the Valerian Empire. Your job would be to help us solve problems the way humans do, practically, persistently, and with genuine care for everyone involved. Doyen stared at her, not quite believing what he was hearing. I am a janitor, he said again, as if repeating enough times would make her understand. You were a janitor, Neri corrected gently. Now you are the person who succeeded where the galaxy's finest princes failed. What you are does not limit what you can become. Doyen walked away from her, his mind racing. He looked at the alien plants around him, at the impossible beauty of this garden. A week ago, he had been cleaning floors. Now a princess was offering a position that would change his entire life. If I accept, he said slowly, still not looking at her, I need to do it my way. What does that mean? Doyen turned back to face her. It means my first act would be to create councils that include everyone, not just nobles and princes. I want workers on those councils. Servants, farmers, engineers, teachers, people who actually do things every day. Because good ideas can come from anywhere, and the people closest to problems usually understand them best. Neri smiled, and it was a real smile, full of warmth. That is exactly the kind of thinking I hope for. Yes, absolutely yes. I am serious, Doyen said. I do not want to just advise nobles who then make decisions. I want to bring regular people into the process. People like me. People who get ignored because they are not important enough. I know you are serious, Neri replied. That is why this will work. Doyen was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked a question that had been bothering him since the trial ended. Why do you trust me? You barely know me. I have been watching you for months, Neri said. I saw how you treated people when you thought no one important was looking. I saw you help that child fix her toy. I saw you clean up a spill to help a frightened servant. I saw you ask questions and genuinely listen to answers. You revealed your character through 1,000 small actions, Doyen, that is worth more than any speech or display of power. She stepped closer to him. The princes tried to impress me. You just try to be helpful. That is the difference. Doyen thought about Earth, about his family there, about all the other humans working jobs across a galaxy that people dismissed as unimportant. If he accepted this position, it would not just change his life. It would change how people saw humanity. I accept, he said finally, but I am going to make mistakes. I do not know how to be whatever a chief innovator is supposed to be. No one does, Neri said. The position did not exist until now. We will figure out together. The end.